An exciting new chapter in the world of Duke's House of Cards. This is our first remote interview. It could not have picked a better celebrity to have as a guest on Duke's House of Cards than my friend and dealer. And when I say dealer, I mean baseball cards, not something else. Uh, Tony Schaefer from Monster Cards. Welcome. Glad to have you as a guest.
Well, hello to you, John, and to all the Duke fans out there. Thanks for having me tonight.
It's a pleasure. There'll be some people that probably don't know who you are, and I wanted to get to know you a little bit better. Some things I do know and some things I don't know. And one of the first questions I always love to ask our guests: what do you remember about the first baseball game that you ever went to?
Oh man, this is actually a good story. Of course, I'm born and raised a Cubs fan, so we're gonna start off on the wrong foot with a bunch of your your fans right away. Um, but I was probably around 9 or 10 years old, and went to the bleachers with my dad and my sister, who's 3 years younger than I am. Um, and I remember the Cubs being down 6-4 in the ninth inning, and Andre Dawson was batting. And looking up at that big, green scoreboard and seeing a bunch of twos, right? He had 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs in the ninth. He hits a 2-run home run to tie the game at sixes. And eventually, the game goes into extras. Eventually, my sister is kind of antsy, so we drive home, and for some reason we're not listening to the game. I don't know why we're not listening, but by the time we get home, I say to my dad, "Oh, you think the game's still on?" He's like, "No chance the game's still on." So, but we turn it on when we get home. The game is still on. I don't remember how the Cubs won, but they did win 6-7. Um, and, and I have told this story to Andre Dawson. I've been lucky enough to meet him a couple of times. Of course, now he's kind of doing the autograph circuit at the shows.
Yep.
So I've seen him a couple of times. I did tell him this story. It was back when the Cubs had a promotion with 7-Eleven stores, where if the Cubs won and they scored 7 or 11, you could present your ticket for a free Slurpee. So young Tony got himself a free Slurpee off of that game, and it's permanently etched in my memory. I did look up the box score at one point, but I can't remember the team that they were playing for this game, but it's all out there. And yeah, that turned me into an Andre Dawson fan for life, actually, too.
I'd say the Hawk was quite a player, and
Mm.
like you, have had the great fortune of meeting him at a show, and you don't realize what a big dude he is. Even at his age, he hasn't shrunk much. He's still a pretty formidable guy.
Yeah, exactly. One of the, I was lucky enough to see Bob Gibson at one of those St. Louis shows too, and from the attitude perspective, they're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. But I was still afraid to even say hello to Bob Gibson, and this
I have
was.
to admit, I was the same way. I met Gibson at quite a few shows over the years in St. Louis, and you were just on pins and needles because you were afraid you might say something and he might pull a baseball out of his pocket and bean you or something like that.
Yeah, I don't want one to be buzzed by my head in the parking lot or something. Yeah.
Now I know you are a Koufax collector, and Koufax was before our time, unfortunately.
Sure.
But what turned you on to collecting Sandy Koufax?
Oh yeah. So now it's cool to be a nerd, yeah, and baseball and other things. But back when I was in high school, it wasn't necessarily the same. I had one of those enormously thick statistical archives of baseball. And this was, maybe the cusp of the internet or a little before. But I put together this big spreadsheet of, who I thought were the best pitchers, and had, my own criteria. So, I don't want to get in any deeper than that. But I know Koufax was right up there, and I did a little bit of research into his career, and of course, the 5 years he put together, like that 61 to 66-ish era, is just almost beyond compare. So it's just something that I saw in him that I've just kind of run with.
Tony, what year did you begin collecting cards?
I would put it officially around 86 or 87. I do remember buying packs in 86, and then packs, boxes, sets were, popular gifts for me starting in 87.
Where was your go-to place to buy cards, or was there any place in particular?
Yeah, and I've loved the video you put out of the market where you bought cards too
Yeah.
as a youngster. So I grew up in Mendota, Illinois. It's roughly halfway between Bloomington and Rockford. For anybody who doesn't know, it's just a rural, farming community. But there was a hardware store, I'd call it downtown, that had packs, and then there was one of these true five and dime stores called
Mm-hmm.
Fact and Fancy that also had packs and would get the complete sets. Later on, there was, and this speaks to the junk wax era and how
Mm-hmm.
prevalent and how far-reaching the tentacles were back then. There was an official shop that opened up in the basement of a Ben Franklin store in town.
Wow.
So I had three places to go for those cards.
Is there a particular set that's your favorite? I know you collect a lot of different things in a lot of different eras.
Sure. Um, I would say I like the 57 set a lot. Real
Mm-hmm.
simple design. I like the rookie firepower. I like the short print series. Now that's colored by me kind of being a dealer. I like all those things. I like to have a little bit of a challenge. I like to have some good rookies to chase. I also like the 38 Gaudis personally. Just the cartoons and the big heads I think are fun. Yeah, this is the whimsy that I like.
When did you begin to dabble with being a dealer, and what prompted you to begin exploring that path?
Sure. I never really thought that this would be a viable career. But I
You're
came
you're
down
living
here.
every man's you're living every man's dream. You know that, right?
I do know that, and the older I get, the more I appreciate it. Really, my back doesn't appreciate it, but I do. um, so I still living in Champaign, Illinois here, and I came down here for college, and it just happened that my freshman year I was going to be taking some classes still at the U of I, or a couple of classes in the card shop that I had been to a couple of times during the school year. Of course, trips off campus were kind of rare at the time, but I tried to grab a few dollar and $2 cards when I could make it off campus. I was in the shop one day, and I was turning to leave, and I don't know what came over me. I just turned back around and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be here over the summer. Do you need any help?" And it all just took off from there. I had, one of the best mentors that I could possibly find in Joe Yanello, Shoeless Joe. Maybe some people know him. Did you ever know Shoeless Joe from any of his St. Louis shows?
I probably met him, but I don't recall. I don't remember if I did.
Okay. And of course, Joe was a nationally known dealer. And before I knew it, I was kind of front loading my schedule, like Monday through Thursday mornings. And if I could take off Friday, we would go to Philadelphia, or, we were traveling around the country in no
Mm-hmm.
time to all these shows. And that's when I really got the blueprint really of what it would be like to be a full-time dealer. So, very, very thankful, and, just wouldn't be able to do it without that experience.
Tony, what are some of your favorite shows that you go to each year?
Yeah, it's evolved. Before COVID, I was in St. Louis almost every month to Dave
Yep.
Jackson's shows,
And
between
that's
two
how we got to
arts.
know each other.
Yeah, yep, for sure. When those kind of got a little bit slower, especially on the vintage side, that my favorite shows kind of evolved. Now, Strongsville, Ohio, that's they call themselves the longest running vintage show in the country, and just the vibe there is cool. A bunch of YouTubers are there. Um, the customers are all knowledgeable, right? So you have kind of a different level of conversation with the people who come in there. And of course, the national. Then it's just
Yep.
it's just a marathon. In fact, it's like sprinting a marathon because it is just so busy from beginning to end.
Or it's a gauntlet. It depends on how you look at it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because you're involved during the day, and now a lot of times at night too, and they're drawing record attendance. So
Yeah.
it's physically and mentally draining.
I'm glad you mentioned Strongsville. I have never been. I've heard great things about it. As you
Yeah.
know, I love vintage. That's my vibe. And I'm swearing up and down next year is the year I'm going to Strongsville. And for those who don't know, that's up in the Cleveland area. It's one of the suburbs, right?
Exactly. And they still call it Strongsville. This year they moved it to Independence, Ohio. We'll see if it shares the same location next year. But despite moving, it was still a wonderful show.
What do you enjoy most about being a dealer? I think I know what your answer is going to be, but let's see.
Well, that's evolved too, and I just look back on these relationships that I've made over time. I look back on the longevity that I have with my business. I broke away from Joe and started my own, personal business, Monster Cards, in 2003. But it's definitely the people. It's definitely interacting with all the people. As I've told some people lately, the dollars and cents still has to be there, but it's just a lot more of a looser atmosphere now that I have with people, and not so focused on all the black and white, I guess.
Yeah. And that's how I feel it. And I barely stick a pinky toe into what you're doing. I do a few shows a year, and for me, that's
Yeah.
the best part. The people I've met have made some new friends because of that. But I just enjoy whenever you find somebody that knows vintage cards, you can have a conversation with them,
Right.
and that's because you have that same, you're talking the same lingo, and little nuances of particular years and error cards and variations and what high numbers are and how difficult it is to put the 67 top set together because of high numbers or the 1966 Grant Jackson rookie. And those are stories that only people who have been around this for a while can know.
Yeah, we definitely have that connection, right?
Yeah. You and I have talked about this a lot over the last 5 or 6 years since COVID.
Mm.
It's a different world. I mean, this thing has exploded. We keep waiting for the bubble to burst, and I know you definitely have been on the front lines of how things have evolved in just the last 6 years.
Well, you're right, and I hate playing the role of naysayer, but I've been, maybe for the past 3.5 to 4 years, being like, how much longer can this continue? But even since the beginning of this calendar year in 2026, some things like Babe Ruth's and Michael Jordan's are are just still going through the roof, and you're seeing, market appreciation every couple of weeks or months, or a month. It's just um, it's just strange to see an asset go up and up like that and not feel like the bubble's going to burst at some point. But so far, this market has remained very strong.
What are a couple of the coolest cars that you've picked up this year? Do some
Well,
name dropping.
okay. So you mean in my inventory or for myself, or does it?
Either one. Go ahead and wow the audience here.
Yeah. Well, I've had a couple of Michael Jordan rookies, the Fleer rookie. You have to specify now in PSA sevens. One I sold in a couple of weeks, and one I'm holding on to at the moment. I sold that first one maybe a month ago, and it's already appreciated probably 20%. I mean, really,
Wow.
it's just nuts. So this next one, I guess I'm holding for the national. I feel like it's my job as a dealer not to speculate, time the market, things like that. It's my job's to keep things moving, but so it's rare that I'll set something back like that. But recently I've picked up a couple of Gaudi Babe Ruths. Those are some of the hottest Babe Ruths around. I did sell the green, the 181. I had an SGC3 that I just sold at a small show in Mattoon, Illinois, a couple weeks back. Ruth autograph. And I have a couple of cards that I'm not sure if they're for sale yet or not. So that's why I kind of ask if this is my collection. But the 5x7 star Michael Jordans, I have an early. I'm not going to nail what they are actually. One's the slam dunk one, it's red, and one's a blue one, and I forget what exactly that is. But I just like them. I never see them. The photos are really cool. So right now those are in the lockbox.
And Mickey Mantle still sell, and they will continue to sell until the end
Oh
of
my
time.
gosh. Gold standard. Yeah. I
Yeah.
get so many people, probably more than anything. And some of that's due to the price range, right? But more than anyone else, people will just walk up to my tables and say, what mantles do you have?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I've experienced that in the handful of shows that I've done. They're always looking for mantles. Occasionally, Mays, Clemente. I get Clemente a lot these days, more so than probably. It seems like the Clemente legend has grown just in the
Yeah.
last few years, in my opinion.
I agree. And I don't know if it's with some of the other African American players, right? Because you've got the
Yeah.
lore of Jackie and Satchel, and of course, Clemente's story doesn't end well, but he
Right.
still does have quite a story and a legacy in the game. So yeah, I get that a lot too, and his cards are tough for me to keep in stock.
And the one guy that continues to be very affordable is Stan Musial. And I talk to a lot of people about that, and they're surprised when they see a Musial in the case, and it's much less than some of these other guys. And you tell them, yeah, I know Musial was one of the greatest players of all time, but the card just doesn't have the same value as some of these others.
Yeah, it's funny because he's kind of got scattered tops offerings and some oddballs. His rookies are definitely going up, like a lot of Hall of Fame rookies are. But yeah, otherwise you're 61, 2, 3. Yeah, pretty reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my friend, it has been a pleasure to spend time with you. And as we were saying prior to the interview, you were my guinea pig, our first test on doing an interview this way. And this has been great. And looking forward to doing some more remote interviews with other guests in the future. And if I don't see you before, I look forward to seeing you at the National. And I'm pulling all my pennies, quarters, and dimes together. And
Yeah.
and we'll we'll have them spent within the first 20 minutes of walking in the door.
Yeah, I know. Get those elbows sharpened up too. I'm sure it'll be another very busy, the aisles will be packed and all that. Yeah, it'll be good to see you there.
Our special guest, Tony Schaefer from Monster Cards, and thanks again.
Thank you, John. Thanks everybody out there.
Okay.